Good morning. Day 2 of vacation. I think I got a better handle on it. I got my collar out this time. Obviously, I wouldn't have made a good Catholic. I can't manage the collar. So I'm here today at my father-in-law's house, my other father-in-law's house, and we're here with our youngest daughter, and I'm having the time of my life. It is a beautiful day overlooking his backyard, and partly, well, I guess you can't see his garden quite in this shot. Maybe tomorrow I'll do one from out yonder, let you see the garden. It's a beautiful garden. But today it's just kind of an old familiar verse, one that I really love, one that I think is important to us. Of course, I think all the Bible is important to us, obviously, but one I think is important to us. It's found in 1 John 4, verse 17. It says, "Herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment." Because as he is, so are we in this world. So the thing I want you to know is first, he says there's a way for us to have boldness in the day of judgment. We are all going to stand in judgment. We are all going to stand before Jesus Christ. If we are saved, we're going to stand before him at the judgment seat of Christ, where he's going to judge us for how we conducted our life. Remember, as the saved, we are the family of God. We have been bought and purchased with the blood of Christ. We have been born into the family of God. So we are in the family, and nothing can remove us from the family. Just like our children are born into our family, nothing can change the fact that they are our children. So the day of judgment for the Christian is not about being in the family or getting in the family. It's about our conduct once we're in the family. How have we conducted ourselves now that we are part of the family of God? So if we've not trusted Christ as our Savior, we're still going to stand before Christ, but it's going to be the great white throne judgment. And that is where we will stand before him as absolute monarch of creation and give an accounting for why we rejected him, why we rejected the plan of salvation, why we rejected Christ, the sacrifice. We'll be judged by the law. We'll be judged by the law that God wrote and established. And those who stand in that judgment will be declared sinful, will be declared ungodly, and be sent to eternal damnation and punishment. So as children of God, and John is writing to us, and of course John's the apostle of love. He writes extensively about love, and I'm glad that he does, because he really shows us this side of God, this nature, this overall characteristic of God, that God is love. And so he says, herein is how we can know, we can have confidence or boldness in the day of judgment. So we can be bold when we stand before Christ one day, if our love is mature, if our love has been made perfect. And so he tells us, here's how our love is made mature. Here's how our love is made complete, so that we can stand boldly in the day of judgment and not have to be afraid of this day where our actions are evaluated for reward purposes. We can stand boldly if our love is made perfect, is made complete. And here's how it's made complete. As he is, so are we in this world. This is like Christianity in 3 segments. As he is. We are to be as he is. And the only way we're going to know how he is if we read about him. If you want to know how Jesus speaks, get in the Bible, get in the Gospels, see how he spoke, see how he reacted to questions, see how he reacted to those who were enemies, who sought to kill him, who sought to trip him up, who sought to try to find some way to be able to have something against him, to call him to accounting. Look at how he dealt with those who came to him who were in sin, those who were broken and downhearted, and those who were accused. Think about the woman who was taken in adultery. The Bible doesn't deal with, but it strikes all sorts of questions for me. How did they know she was committing adultery at that moment? Because they said she was taken in adultery, the very act. How did they know? So it had to be somebody they knew that was taking on this act with this woman, so that they would know when and how to get her. But look at how he dealt with her. He dealt with them in their judgment, their criticism, and their lack of understanding of the law. And then he turned to her when they all left and dropped their rocks because they were going to stone her. And he looks at her and says, "Woman, where are your accusers?" And she says, "Well, I have none." He says, "Neither do I condemn you." It's important that we understand he didn't condone her sin. He didn't say, "Hey, everything's cool, go back and do what you were doing." He said, "I'm not going to condemn you either, but go and sin no more. Don't sin. Go and sin not." So look at how he dealt with that. He didn't condone sin. He didn't ignore sin. He didn't gloss over it. He didn't overlook it. He addressed it, brought it to her attention, made her know he knew, and dealt with that, but he was not condemning. He showed love, compassion. He's all about forgiveness. So we are supposed to take on that nature. So if we want to act like Christ, we need to see how Christ acted. And we find that through the Gospels, reading about him, how he conducted his life, how he spoke to people, how he loved, how he cared. So he says, as he is. So we're to be like him. So as he is, so are we. But where? In this world. We are to be the eyes, the hands, the feet, the heart, the mouth, the love of Christ right here in this world. Our duty is to emulate Jesus. Our duty is to see so much of who Christ is that we begin to take on his features, take on his characteristics. You know, there's an old story that, and I don't know exactly where it's from, but there's an old story about a village where they had a statue, and they taught the children, and everybody talked about, you know, this was the image of the leader. One day this guy was going to walk into town, and he was going to rescue. He was going to be this great leader, and he was going to bring the city into greatness, and all these things. And this young man, this boy, he was enamored with that story, and every day, before and after school, he would stop and just stare at that statue. And just for hours, he would just stare at that statue. He looked at everything about that statue, how he sat, how he held himself, his muscles, and his look in his face. And one day, as a man, he was walking into the village, and everybody started pointing at him. So, look, there he is. There's the statue. There's the story. There's the guy. What had happened? He had emulated that statue, even though it was an inanimate object. He had looked at it so much. He held himself the way the statue did. He made himself look like that statue, and he just became what he focused on. We will be what we focus on. If we focus on things that are ungodly, we will be ungodly. If we focus on things that are godly, we will be godly. Listen, if we will take the Bible and look so earnestly at the image of Christ that we begin to look like him, and people will see him in us. We are to be what Christ is, who Christ is, right here in this world. It doesn't matter the virus that's going around. It doesn't matter the chaos that's in our country. It doesn't matter what rules or laws are passed. It doesn't matter what any other cities do. It doesn't matter any of those things. Those are all important. They have to do with our life. We should be paying attention. We should know how to react and how to respond and be bold enough to speak to things that need to be spoken to. But in the end, none of that matters. What matters is, do we live for Christ? Are we as he is in this world? Because ultimately, that's what our responsibility is. If we will emulate Christ, not only will we be a good Christian, we will truly be Christ-like, we will also be good citizens. We will be good patriots because we are emulating Christ, the ultimate patriot, the ultimate everything. Christ demonstrated love. He demonstrated faith. He demonstrated loyalty. He demonstrated law. He demonstrated standing against what is wrong. He demonstrated compassion for those who needed compassion. He demonstrated strength to those who were weak. He demonstrated being a brother to those who are brotherless, a father to those who are fatherless. He demonstrated everything we need. And if we emulate Christ, we will be great at everything we need to be. Husbands, dads, patriots, friends, neighbors, brothers. It won't matter whatever the role we need to play in the moment. If we take on Christ to the point that we become the image of him in this world, we will be what we need to be. Everybody always looks for, what is that one thing you got to do to be a good Christian? What is that one thing? The one thing you need to know is there's not one thing. If you're going to boil it down to one thing, I guess you could say this: be like Christ. If we imitate Christ, if we become like Christ, all of those things will be bound up in what we are to be, and they will come out naturally. So, again, easy preaching, hard living, giving up this flesh, giving up, getting past our normally wired aspirations from the sinful flesh to relax and to trust in the new nature of God that dwells in us, letting that nature just ooze through us, become what Christ is. If we want to have boldness in the day of judgment, here's how it is. We have a complete, a mature love. And that happens when we become like Christ in this world. Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow morning.